Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Have you heard that the inaugural Landscape Photography World Awards is now open for entries? Early bird entry is available now at a discounted fee until September 30, 2022. Head to landscapephotographyworldawards.com to find out all the details and how to enter. There's some amazing prizes to be won, and I'll be publishing a book and a calendar with the top images at the end of the competition, so there's plenty to look forward to. Entries close on November 30, 2022, so there's plenty of time to get your entry sorted, but if you want to get into the early birds, do it now. I'd also like to thank the judges who have agreed to work with me and be a big part of the awards. Deb Clark, Victoria Hark, Kieran Stone and William Patino. I certainly couldn't make this competition a reality without their support. This week, Tara Workman joins me to talk about her amazing landscape career. Tara is a nature photographer born and raised in Barbados and currently living in the Pacific Northwest of the US. She loves living in one of the most sought-out areas for landscape photography, but considers herself equally blessed to have a husband who enjoys travel and seeing new places near and far with her. With a stressful full-time career in medicine, Tara is most carefree when out in nature with a camera in hand. For her, photography has gradually evolved from a fun hobby to having a vital role in her maintaining a healthy work-life balance. For Tara, simplicity is at the base of her work. Her works seek to entice the viewer to stop, ponder, or simply admire for an extra second in this fast-paced existence. We discuss how she balances her work and photography, what her images mean to her, and what challenges photography faces right now, along with a whole lot more. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi Tara, welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure to have you. I've been following your work for a little while and quite impressed with some of what I've seen. How about you talk us through how you got started in photography and in particular landscape photography?
Yeah. So I started photography probably around late 2016. I always loved taking photos of family members and different things. I had bought a few cameras and I wanted to buy another one. And my husband kind of looked at me and asked why, and I couldn't give him a good answer. So he said, if you want to buy another camera, you should learn how to use it. So I took a basic photography course just to learn how to take the camera off of auto.
Yep.
And I don't know, it just changed my world. I think I just got hooked. I think the class was maybe 6 to 8 weeks, and we would have homework to do where you would go and shoot different things and practice different things. And I don't know, I thoroughly enjoyed it and just became obsessed like most people who do it, and photographed everything. I would go downtown, I would go to the dog park and just photograph anything and everything. And I think my husband pretty much regretted pushing me in that direction. Yeah. So and in terms of how I got to landscape, basically I live in Portland and the Northwest. It's the mecca for waterfalls and mountains and the coast and everything. So I started in the Instagram era. So I met a couple of Pacific Northwest photographers and all they were shooting was landscape. And I kind of just gravitated there, and I don't know, things kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what is it that I guess you're chasing most now in your photography? What are you looking for, I guess?
The honest truth, I'm not. In the last 2 years to 3, I've purposely stopped looking for anything. So for me, the most important thing is follow my curiosity and not trends. So probably about 3 years ago, being part of Instagram, um, I kind of found myself getting a little bit grumpy with regards to like the seasonality of things in terms of it
Hmm.
was tulip season in the spring and waterfall season in the spring, and then fall color, everybody shooting the same waterfalls, and Milky Way season. And I felt like we were pretty much doing the same things every year,
Yeah.
just different conditions.
Hmm.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it initially, but one, I was tired. I was just so tired. I was, you're working plus doing photography, and I don't know. I wanted to do something different, and I started looking at a lot of the photographers that I loved. The Alex Noriegas, TJ
Sure.
Thorne, Sarah Marino, and the one thing that I realized is that they were just doing things that were uniquely them.
Yep.
Um, you can, and so they were doing creative things with nature that wasn't just kind of cookie cutter. And
Yeah.
I preface this by saying cookie cutter, there's nothing wrong with it. I just got to a point where it wasn't fulfilling me as much.
Yep.
Um, and so I just started looking in different avenues, and um, I don't know, I just gradually started experimenting a little bit more with the things that were around me. And if we took trips, I would just look for, I wouldn't have spots that I was going to. I would just look and see whatever caught my interest.
Sure. Sure. So is that where you started to, I guess, take a more artistic approach to your photography as opposed to the experience, which is, yeah, well, there's a nice scene, nice flowers or, mountains or whatever, and you take that shot and that's nice. But
Yeah.
is that where you started to say, okay, well, I really want to make it art out of it, or I guess talk me through that.
Yeah. So I would say it accidentally happened that way. It was more, I just wanted to know if I could do anything unique. I wanted to know if I was actually a creative person. And it was just more of a question for me in terms of, am I a good photographer beyond the technical?
Sure.
And could I make compelling images that weren't shown to me? So it wasn't that I was trying to make art or be artistic. It was just more, I was just trying to discover who I was as a photographer. And one of the interesting things is I started, um, so I reached out to David Thompson, just to learn a little bit more in terms of editing and
Hmm.
stuff like that, because I loved his work. Um, and then the pandemic hit, and I think it was actually the best and worst. It was the worst thing for just about everybody, but it was
Sure. Sure.
probably the best. Yeah, it was probably the best thing that happened for my photography, because I work in the medical field. I'm actually a family physician, and so it was an incredibly stressful time.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, but I was very limited in terms of travel, in terms of options of going places.
Yep.
Um, and so there were a lot of online webinars and different things that people were putting on. And so I would sort of immerse myself in photography. And then any mornings that I had off or days that I had off, I would go into the gardens, I would go to the dog park. I would just photograph little things like the flowers or the
Sure.
hummingbirds and water. And and what I found was, I would initially, you would shoot things pretty straight on, but the more you saw it, you would see different angles, you would see different ways that the shapes were, the colors. And I don't know, I felt like I grew a lot in that time.
Mm.
And a lot of the images that you see now have come out of the pandemic,
Okay.
ironically. Yeah.
So do you think that changed your view on, traveling for photography and, uh, staying more local? Is that something that you intend to keep doing, or is that just sort of, that was then and now I can get out into the world and let's go,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both in terms of, I think I'm fortunate in that I don't feel like I need to travel, but I absolutely love traveling.
Sure.
The difficulty with traveling now is I went to Iceland in September with a few friends, and I actually struggled a lot
Mm.
because it's Iceland. And so you have these preconceived notions in your head.
Yep.
Um, and so everybody was like, I can't wait to see what you get from there. And I'm like, I'm getting the same things as everybody else because it's Iceland.
Yeah.
And I and it's hard to be, I don't know, what I'm trying to figure out is how to not have the pressure of creating something drastically different just because I enjoy doing other things, because I love beautiful sunrises and sunsets. I love, mountains. I love all the scenes. I love nature.
Yep.
Um, I just I don't want to be pigeonholed into just one thing.
Sure.
Um, so I'm just, I'm at that point where I'd love to go back to Iceland and basically just get my bearings a little bit more. Because I do think that the longer you go to places and the more often you visit, you see different things.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
I mean, I've lived here most of my life in Sydney, and there's still places I know I haven't photographed, and there's still shots that I want to get, and
yeah.
I'm just going to keep going back until I get what I want.
There
Uh,
you go.
and I just came back from a trip to the UK where I've been several times, but each time we go, we kind of go to somewhere different. I went to the Lake District in North Wales, which I'd never been to before.
Yeah,
And like you, yes, you tend to go to the same places everyone else goes in the Lake District in North Wales.
yeah.
So Fredonia is there, and you've got to go there. So
And there's nothing wrong with it.
no,
I mean,
absolutely not.
it's
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
fine with shooting that stuff, but as you say, the more times that you return to those kind of locations, and it doesn't necessarily be one of the very iconic ones, it gives you the chance to explore and get around. I think, and
right.
that's for me one of the joys of photography is that there's literally infinite possibilities.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah.
So, what would you say you're trying to communicate with your photographic style? Um, you know, it's fairly, and I don't want this to sound like I'm not giving you a critique or anything because I really admire your work, but, it's fairly naturalistic that, you're not doing some of those, real vivid colors and unless I'm wrong, you're not doing, massive composites and those sorts of things. So it's kind of the scene as you see it, or as the human eye could see it, as opposed to something that's sort of dreamlike and more of a fantasy world. Is that really what you're trying to portray and get across to people? Is the beauty of what you're seeing?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think I think one of the things for me with regards to why I do photography is I love moments, and I love nature. I love just capturing these. They don't have to be perfect, but they have things that are striking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it doesn't have to be obviously so. Um, and so they're just, I don't know. For me, life in in general is full of big moments. It's full of mundane little moments. Happiness for me comes from appreciating both the big and the little moments, and I think my photography has kind of morphed into you know being patterned after that in terms of just appreciating nature for the little moments that, I don't know, just the nice little colorful scenes, the way that water moves, the way
Mm-hmm.
that, just, I don't know. It's for me, it's a less is more approach. They're very simplistic, um, and just appreciating nature for nature. Um, and then I hate editing for a prolonged period of time, and so I don't want to sit on the computer
Sure.
uh, for a really long time. And so it's, yeah, for me, it's what I see. If I think it's beautiful, that's what I'm going to photograph. And the magical thing is that other people have found value in it and have found that what I think is beautiful is also beautiful to other people. And that's, I don't know, it's, yeah, you always want your work to be appreciated, but you never know, especially when you're a photographer on Instagram. It's not really competing, but you're in a world with mountains and waterfalls and all of
Yep.
that. And for people to actually gravitate towards my work, um, I don't know, I think it's a gift. And I don't know, it's wonderful.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
How would you describe your style if somebody had not seen your work before? And I'm obviously going to encourage everyone who listens to go and check you out. But
Yeah.
if somebody hasn't seen you before, how would you describe it?
I usually say it's a less is more approach to creativity, where um, it's minimalist, but not necessarily a lot of negative space. Um, it's just, I don't know, that the subject matter is very simple. But it can be elegant, it can be beautiful, it can be colorful, but not necessarily. It could be black and white, but it's generally just what you see is what you get. Not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of frills, but I think it can still be impactful, even though there's not that much to it.
Sure, sure. That's great. How do you balance full-time work and your photography? I mean, it's always. I think this is actually one of the more interesting questions that I ask people. Is you've got you mentioned you're a family physician. I imagine that's fairly full on, and can result in long hours, etc. So how do you balance the two?
I'm a lot better at it now. So since I've actually changed the way that I photograph, and I'm not actively seeking out certain scenes, I don't have to, like, in the first few years of photographing, it would be okay. Milky Way is going to be it's going to be here. We got clear skies. So I've done some crazy stuff to get, where, I work Monday, Tuesday, I'm off Wednesday, drive 5 hours to Crater Lake.
Yep.
You have your day off and you're driving back, and then you work Thursday, Friday. So I said I was tired, because you're basically trying to get conditions, you're trying to, and then you still have to work, and then I have a husband, and and so I was not doing well for a few years.
Yeah.
There was no balance. I was tired. Um, Now it's actually easier. I've actually changed in the last almost a year now. I actually changed from full-time practice in the clinic to a virtual urgent care kind of position. So I'm actually at
Mhm.
home. And I did that more so that I could balance photography. So I can actually go to the coast, work, spend time with my husband, go shoot sunrise, sunset, even, go for walks in the middle of the day, shoot some driftwood and stuff
Sure.
like that. And so, but I don't have to take my camera everywhere anymore, because I don't feel that urgency of missing a sunrise or a sunset. Now I watch them and I actually enjoy them. But if I don't have my camera, it's okay. So the balance factor, I am much better at, thankfully.
Okay, so that sounds like you're in a much better space than you might have been a few years ago. What I mean, aside from changing to doing more virtual consultations, what else did you do? I guess to get into that headspace, because for me the physical and the time sort of stuff that you do around it is part of it, but I think there's also that mental switch that you've got to flick off and go, okay, I'm not going to worry about that, or I'm not going to do this. How did you actually make that mental change?
I think I don't think that it was I don't think it was a conscious decision or any triggering event. I think it just naturally occurred where I was genuinely tired all the time.
Mm.
Um, and I love sleep. I absolutely love sleep. and
It's not a
and
great
love
thing for
photography.
a landscape photographer, though.
No, it's
I
not.
love it
But
too, but yeah.
but I think I'm just fortunate in that um my passion changed in terms of I you know I don't I don't need to do Milky Way anymore. That part of my journey I think is over for now, at least.
Sure.
Um, and so what I'm craving doesn't require me to be out on a regular basis. And one of the other things that I started doing is setting aside photo trips as opposed to, you know, random, let's go on this weekend and or on my day off, let's just, spend a day, and then you come back and you're exhausted,
Okay.
and then you need the weekend to recover. And then my poor husband's like, let's play golf. And I'm like, no, I am not playing golf today.
Okay. Wow. So I guess that sounds to me a little bit like you're doing more planned photography than just random opportunities that crop up. Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if there's a random opportunity comes up, most photographers I know aren't going to miss it. But
I've missed a lot. I
yeah,
I I tend to miss them now, and it's okay. So the way that I look at it is, if I so the way so I don't know if you know Jared Armijo, Away
yeah,
I Flew. So yeah, so he and I do a lot of photo trips together, and the reason that we work is because he usually has kind of an idea of what he wants. I have no idea what I want. I just show up.
right,
But if we if we go for 4 days and we're just driving around all day, we wake up for sunrise, see what we see. We're not, may plan. Most of the time, we have no idea where we're going to go until the day,
okay,
and then we decide, okay, let's try this location, and it has nothing to do with weather. I would say 90% of the time has nothing to do with weather. It's just we want to see this place,
right,
and so it's very spontaneous. But if we have 4 to 5 days of just roaming around, we're going to get a lot of stuff that we find interesting, not necessarily amazing photo. He makes amazing photos because he's a magician, but I, I might get a few things that I really like. Um, Whereas a lot of the other trips where I'm going for a day, or, I'm going for specific conditions, I'll come away with one photo
yeah,
from that trip. And if I think about, the time, and then how tired I am to come away with one photo, it doesn't feel worth it to me anymore.
yeah,
Um, and I can go on a 5-day trip and come away with one photo, but that's okay. But I don't want to spend my free time running around trying to get one photo. Sometimes you get skunked, and then I'm tired for day. I like I've made that calculation, and I don't know. With life right now, it's not as worth it
sure,
anymore.
sure. No,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
So, what's your favourite place to shoot? What do you keep getting drawn back to? One of those places that you haven't, and it might be you haven't nailed it, or you've nailed it, but you just keep wanting more. What kind of place is that?
Two places. So one place is on the Oregon coast. There's a place that my husband and we've been going to for years to play golf. He and his family comes up, and we always have, family time. And then once I started photography, it's a really beautiful place to photograph. And during the pandemic, that was probably the only place we could go to vacation. So I spent a lot of time there getting to know it. And a lot of my not sand dune, sorry, sand abstract images are from the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I love going back there. I don't know, it's always fun, but there are always good memories outside of photography.
Yeah.
Um, And then Death Valley, the dunes. Just I don't know. Something about the dunes just I don't know. Everybody loves the dunes, but I don't know. It's close to my heart.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's the furthest you've travelled to get a shot? Is it Iceland or is it further afield?
So I I'm very lucky in my life, and my husband actually. So he's in marketing for USA Pears, the fruit, and
Okay.
so he actually travels the world
Nice.
marketing pears. So so I tag along every chance I get. So I've been to New Zealand. Freaking love that place.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, New Zealand. Haven't been to Australia. That was actually on our pandemic list. Um, uh, Photography wise, I did Germany, Switzerland, Norway. I'm very fortunate. I yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, but I would like to go back to a lot of those places. With that I photograph now, and see what I come up with there. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Cool. So, what about locally? What's you know, obviously that's influenced some of how you shoot, living
Mm-hmm.
where you do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in what way would you sort of explain to somebody that didn't understand the area,
Yeah.
what it was like,
It's it is a landscape photographer's dream, really,
Mm,
because so I live in the Portland area, and basically you can drive 2 hours and be in the mountains. You can drive 2 hours and be at the coast. You can drive a few hours and be in like desert.
yep.
Um, you know, it, it's yeah, it there's so much waterfalls, coast. There's just you will never be finished. There's so many things that you could photograph, and you don't even have to drive that far. One of my favorite places is Trillium Lake, and um, I mean the most beautiful reflections if you get there when it's quiet,
Mm,
and I don't know, it's just beautiful, and it takes less than an hour for me to get there, or just about an hour.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know. The place is magical. It's around here. It's a landscape photographer's dream.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
it's definitely on my list. It's one I haven't been able to get to yet. I've been to the US a few times, but never made it up the coast from San Fran is basically the furthest north on the Pacific coast I've been so far. So,
Well, do you know the Bay Area is really really nice as
oh,
well. They get a lot. They get
I
a
was
lot of
there for work,
fog and
unfortunately, and didn't even have my camera in my bag.
uh,
It was like
uh,
a 3 day work trip, so it was like, yeah,
it just means you have to come back. But
absolutely,
if you do make it, just let me know. Let me know.
absolutely. I'll definitely take you up on that offer. So, what's the most memorable experience you've had out shooting?
The most memorable times are the ones with friends. Like, so Jared and I, we always we always have a really, really, really good time. Lots of laughs and stuff. So trips with him are generally a highlight. I would say, other than trips with him, there was one sunrise that um, a few of my friends and we drove. I think it's almost 3 hours just to get the sunrise, and it was the most ridiculous. You know, those sunrises that just don't make sense,
Yep.
that you'll probably never see again, where it was Mount Adams and the clouds kind of were arcing. There was a
No.
lake, so it reflected, and it just looked it was just unreal. And all of us were just there watching it, and it was, I don't know, you're just there with your friends experiencing one of the most epic moments. So for me, like, usually my best moments are when you're experiencing it with friends. Um, yeah, that one was pretty good. Not necessarily because of the sunrise, but because we all like, I don't know. It was just you're like kids. You're like kids running around like I cannot believe that this is happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love those moments. They're
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I like also to find out about the worst moment out shooting. What's your horror story?
I
Everyone
I'll
has
have to
one.
think of I know, I'll have to think about that. I don't know that I have like some of the worst moments are things like not actually in the field, but you're in a room with 5 people for 5 days and you come out of the shower and there's underwear on your toothbrush kind of thing. I won't say who did that, but who does that, right? Who does that?
I can honestly
And
say I've never experienced that, luckily, but
no, because that's not a normal thing. It's
no,
not a normal
that's
thing
definitely not
that
normal.
you put yeah, no, no. But five people, 5 people in one hotel room. People ended up like sleeping in the bathtub because they couldn't sleep. They just ended up, yeah, that was probably like, but in terms of like horror stories, I've fallen into, oh, okay, I do have one. So I think it was probably 2 winters ago, went out with a girlfriend um, to just photograph in the snow, swampy area that's just basically lots of snow and then iced over swamps. And I I saw a patch of ice with really cool patterns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you put your tripod there, you test it out, and
Yep, yep.
everything looked good. So I took a couple of shots, and I actually got some of my favorite images from that time. And then I went to a different patch, and I did not test it.
Oops.
And I kneeled. I put one knee down, and immediately it just went through.
Oh,
And backpack on, camera pointing down, camera goes into the
no.
frozen, yeah. And I was just completely submerged. Had to, you're soaked, you're you're freezing, and basically I had to hike out with my camera gear, my soaked camera, that funny enough still works.
Oh, okay. So it
Um,
survived.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
it did. And then you get back.
Plus one for the weather sealing on that one.
I know Sony AR7 III. The lens didn't make it, but the memory card made it, and the camera. And
Wow.
then you get back to the car and you're just trying to take off as many things as possible, turn up the heat, and then I had to drive an hour and a half back home.
Oh no.
Yeah. Uh,
That's definitely a memorable one. That.
Indeed.
So, if you could retire to one of the places where you've taken a shot, where would that be?
I'd probably say the coast.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
West Coast, yeah.
Yeah, the Oregon coast. I could probably photograph, yeah, for years to come. And then, the dunes I love, but the dunes are hard to walk. And as I age, I don't see myself doing that.
Yeah, not
But the
not a
coast,
retirement activity. Yeah.
no, but the coast I could do. I could definitely
Fair enough. What has the practice of photography taught you about the world?
And I've said this before to people, but enjoy, I said this to you, but enjoy the small moments, the
Yeah.
little moments. Happiness will come if you can be okay with missing some things and enjoying the small moments and the mundane moments that make up our lives. But otherwise, like I didn't see things. Like I see things now with photography. Like I see, like even like I've always seen, I, I could probably see myself doing like street photography because I enjoy moments of, not necessarily street photography and be good at it, but I enjoy moments of people and stuff like that. But I never saw nature in the way that I see nature right now, and the beauty, and I see sunrises and sunsets so differently. I see storms and cloudy, gloomy, moments very differently. And I don't know. I'm a lot more appreciative, especially living in Oregon where it rains a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but if the clouds look amazing, I can be happy with that.
Yeah, no one wants the flat grey, but if you've got nice
Right.
chunky storm clouds that are, got
Yeah.
greeny blues in them, there's nothing better, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think the big thing is that I see things. I see
Yeah.
a lot more, and I'm a lot more aware of, I don't know, everything around me.
Fantastic. Do you have a routine? So you talked a little bit about, you might not know where you're going until the day, but are you planning those trips in terms of what you've got in mind for your photography beforehand, or is it just sort of you take it as it comes when you get in the field?
I take it as it comes, and the ideal trip for me is, so I went to Iceland and I basically said, wherever y'all want to go, I'll go.
Sure.
And so if I'm going on my own, it's a lot more difficult because I don't enjoy the planning. I don't really want to plan. I might
Hmm.
pick spots, but I enjoy just going wherever other people want to go.
Okay.
Um, so in terms of with my husband, um, I might pick out a couple of things, but a lot of times I've actually gotten some really good shots with him choosing like the hiking trails, and he's actually a really good scout. He's amazing. It's funny. He'll call me over and just be like, "Look at this," and then yeah, and he's got a pretty good eye. He takes great photos. He just doesn't edit anything, which I'm
Okay.
okay with. Yeah,
No, that's
we
fine.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
I know people that hate editing.
Yeah, he's got tons of stuff on because he travels a lot. He does a lot of city stuff and different
Yeah.
things because he's been to India, and yeah, it's not a real job really, but but he has memory cards full of just probably really really cool stuff. But I don't know, he just enjoys the the act of actually taking the photo, and then he's done.
Yeah. Great. Great.
Yeah.
So, what routine do you have when you're out in the field? Are you what are you looking for? I guess, and how are you framing up? I mean, every photographer that I've spoken to, kind of, wherever they go, even driving down the street to the shops, they're framing up. Oh yeah,
Hmm.
that could make a nice shot. So
Yeah, yeah.
beyond that, what are you looking for? I guess to what speaks to you in the landscape that makes you go, yep, that's the frame.
Yeah, I love colors generally will draw me in first. So, um, I don't know. I love colorful things. I love um, so like fall colors and different things, or the colors of leaves, um, and the water reflections, just reflected. Just I don't know. I spent a lot of time at the dog park, and you'll have reflected boats and different things, and I'm generally drawn to things that are colorful, um, but with regards to things like the sand dunes, I'm just looking for shapes, and then the shadows, and most of the time, in order for me to take the photo, I actually need to look in the viewfinder. It's
Mm.
interesting. So I'll see stuff that for me looks interesting, but then I look through the viewfinder, and and half the time, or probably more than half the time, it doesn't look good when I'm actually framing it up.
Sure.
Um, so it's more, there are a lot of things in nature that just catch my eye, usually colorful things, fun, simple shapes. Um, and then obviously the light and the way that the light casts on things. And I love, my favorite is that softer light just in general. So I'm if you look at my work, I don't do a lot with, it's usually after the sun has set or just before the sun rises. I love that light the most.
Yeah.
Because the colors come out a lot better. For me. And I don't know. So that's what I'm kind of drawn to mostly, I think.
So are you sort of framing things up by eye or with your phone or with the viewfinder on the camera itself?
Mostly with if I'm, so let's say we're driving and the light looks beautiful on trees and stuff like that.
Oh.
I'm not necessarily framing it up because I can't take the photo, but I usually am like, ooh, there's something there. There's something there. The light is beautiful. I'm pretty sure if I had time, I could probably make something, or I would want to try to make something work. So if I don't have the camera, I'm not usually framing anything. I'm just kind of looking at things that I think look, I don't know, that I would want to photograph or at least want to spend time with.
Yeah.
And then when I'm out on a photo trip or I actually have the camera, if I see something interesting, I actually will look through the viewfinder and see if anything kind of catches my eye. And then if it doesn't look the way that I think it should look, I'll move on or change position. And then if I'm changing position too much and it's not working, then I'll probably move on. I don't know. I don't spend a whole lot of time. And like the dunes, I just walk. I walk, and if I see something that I like as the light is changing, I will take that photo, but I don't find a composition and stay there.
Yeah.
It's a strange approach, but I don't know.
This is part of why I do this podcast, is just to try and find out and dig deeper into people's approach and why they do certain things and some of what they do. I'm less interested in the gear per se. That doesn't interest me a great deal, but it's more the creative process when you're out in the field and or at home processing, and just trying to understand that a little bit more. So I guess, are you doing a lot of handheld shooting, or are you getting the tripod out and setting up and taking your time around it, or
go ahead.
I guess it's just that and it's not so much planned, but I guess that shooting with intent by sitting somewhere for a little while with the camera on the tripod, trying to frame it up and taking your time around it, or being more spontaneous. And I guess it depends a little bit on the shot, but I'm just interested. What do you spend more time doing?
So my preference would be to handhold everything. I hate the tripod. I find it limits, because I want to move and I want to see things differently, and I want to see. I don't know. I'm pretty sure with my approach, I could get better compositions, because if I stayed at one area and perfected the composition, I probably could get better at it. But I like to move around, and Jared and I are very similar in that way, in that we just like to roam around and see what we see and capture moments. Yeah. But he pretty much never uses a tripod unless it's like very, very low light. I tried to do that, and a lot of the images are just too soft and too blurry, because I like to use the telephoto, and it's a little heavier for me. So most of the time now I do use a tripod. So I'll walk around with it and just plant it in different places. So I would like to not use the tripod. If I'm at the dog park, I don't have the tripod, but most of the photo trips, I lug it around and grumble about it.
Well, it's extra weight. I was talking to Will Patino. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yeah. He's amazing.
He's basically switched away from using a tripod at all. He's doing everything handheld. And
and he gets the long exposures too, which is I've tried, because I actually watched a couple of his videos and I was like, well, if he could do it, I could do it. I can't do it.
Yeah,
I can't. I no.
mind you,
Yeah,
I've still got a DSLR, so I don't have a mirrorless at the moment, and so
yeah,
I think without the mirrorless, it's virtually
it's
impossible.
almost impossible. Yeah,
But I can probably get to about maybe a 13th of a second handheld, but anything beyond that.
But how? But so for me, like before the last couple of years, I was just doing it for fun and with so it didn't really matter if they were a little soft, but now people actually care. And I know photographers are, pixel peepers, and so for me, it's like, oh gosh, no, I should really get some sharp images.
Yeah, nobody wants that. It looks a bit soft, or
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yes,
I know. Do you? But do you like the composition? Is that
Yeah, well, that's.
Is it a good image?
It doesn't matter. It's not technically 100%.
Oh, indeed.
No, I'm not a fan of those conversations. They're never fun.
I'm with you, but for me, I think it's good to at least try to get a sharp image. Before, when I was doing it for fun, it really didn't matter. I was just printing, calendars for family, and nobody cared. I'd put it on Instagram, and it wouldn't matter that much. And apparently now I'm doing podcasts and stuff, and people care.
People look harder, don't they?
Apparently.
So what about your processing when you get it home? Are you straight off the camera into the computer and you're looking for the banger that you hope you've got, or are you leaving it for a while and taking your time over it? I
try to cull them and look for the ones that look semi decent, and then there are usually a couple that will stand out to me, and then I might put like 2 stars on those ones to come back to sooner. Sure. But I'm not one that, like, I'll edit when I feel like editing, whether it's like a day later or 2 months later.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I know a lot of people let them sit and then come back to them. I don't know that it matters that much for me. I do know that there are a lot of times that I will come back like months later and go through some of the unculled images and find stuff that I'm like,
what you first thought might have been secondary, and you come out and go, actually, that's the shot.
Exactly.
I love that feeling.
So yeah. And that happens to me a lot with dunes, especially because there's so many different variations, and so it's always fun to kind of go back through and see what I missed. And then there are others where you're just like, why did I even edit this?
Yeah. I've got a bunch actually from the UK trip that I've some of them, I do a bit of exposure blending and whatever. So some of them I've just sort of lined up and I've done the basic blend without the finish of the editing. And some of them I've looked at a couple of times and I go, maybe I'm not going to come back to that one.
You never know. And it depends on the day too,
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes one of the other things that I've done a couple of times, a really interesting tip somebody gave me a while back is flip the image 180 degrees. So you're looking at it upside down. And compositionally, that helps you crop the image and decide, okay, is the composition balanced? Is the composition not balanced? And it's just, I've just found it a really valuable tool to go, okay, that works, that doesn't, and making a really quick decision, because it's, just flip it 180 degrees, look at it. Does it work? Yes or no? It's a really nice way of just sort of going, okay, this is a nicely balanced comp or not.
I might have to try that.
Yeah.
See, this is why I do podcasts. You see, we learn things.
Why I do it, because I'm learning a lot from you too. So you mentioned that you do a bit of printing. Are you still printing a lot of your work, or not
I
much?
actually, I actually don't. I don't enjoy printing. I don't know. It's interesting. I love the fact that people love my work, but I don't enjoy the printing process. I just enjoy the photography.
Yep.
That's why, so NFTs, it's kind of the best case scenario for me in terms of showing my work, people appreciating it. So I have done prints for people, um, but not that many.
Mm.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
It's all right.
yeah. No, it's totally okay.
It's all right. Yeah. So yeah, so I've done a lot of prints for family and stuff like that because I love to share what I do with them.
So,
And they were my biggest fans before anything,
yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, they're the only ones that you have to please.
It's true. It's true. But they are easier. They're not pixel peeping.
No, that's
I,
true. Yeah, they're looking at it holistically and going, "Yes, I like it," or not.
the funny thing is though, they prefer the mountains and the waterfalls and all of those things. It's interesting how I'll get more. So you don't do that anymore? You just abstracts? I'm like, well, no. I'll see what I can do for you. So
So, what about your NFT experience? Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, so for me, it's something that's sort of started to take a bit of a back seat, and I've
yeah.
sort of gone off some of that shilling culture and everything. Is that something that you're still
Oh.
really into, or are you not the shilling necessarily, but the
It's
whole culture around it, and your experience with that? I'm just interested to know what you've
yeah.
seen.
So I've been in it for about a year, a little over a year now. And my first experience, my first half of the time, I did not enjoy it because I don't like pushing my work. I I I don't know. The culture of it was just not for me. Also, the 24/7 you have to be on Twitter, you have to be retweeting, you have to be it was just not sustainable, not for me.
Mm.
And I didn't enjoy it. And then in December, I decided that I did want to give it a try, but doing it more as me and with what I could do. And so I wasn't trying to be on spaces. I wasn't shilling. I was just basically posting my work. And
Yep.
then I was accepted into, I don't know if you've ever heard of Sloika, which is,
Yep.
it's just, yeah. So a platform that allows you to actually, do your collections and they'll help with marketing. But it was nicer. It was quieter. It was calmer.
Sure.
Um, and so I put my work there. They helped me promote it. Every once in a while, I would put a tweet out that I still had some images. The collection sold out, which is amazing. It took a few months, but that's fine. Um, and what I've found is there are a lot more curated galleries and groups, and it's not, I mean, there's a lot of frenzy and there's a lot of noise, but you don't necessarily have to be a part of that unless you want to.
Yep.
And so I applied to a couple of things, and I've just I think I've been very fortunate in that I've had success in terms of sales. Um, I don't I tweet and then that's it. I engage with a few people and I've I've had some success. If I didn't have the success in terms of the sales, I would still be okay. And I think that that's the important thing. And I'm very fortunate in that I have a day job that pays well enough that I don't have to worry about sales.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people out there that are trying to do photography full time and they're banking on NFTs being being their full-time gig, and
Mm.
that's a lot of pressure, and it is not
Absolutely.
fun. And you can see, and I hate to use the word, but there's a certain amount of desperation. There's a certain amount of just disappointment on a regular basis when things don't pan out.
Yep.
And that part of it is it's heartbreaking. And for me, I don't know. I made a promise to myself in December that if I was going to do this, I was going to do this my way, whether sales came or they didn't. I'm fortunate enough that sales did come, but I've met a bunch of people that I absolutely love, amazing photographers. I love the fact that the quality is just amazing, and you actually get to interact with a lot of people that you've looked up to,
Mm.
in
Yep.
terms of their work and stuff like that. And I don't know, there are good things about the culture of it, and there are terrible things about the culture of it. And so
Yeah.
for me, I made a choice to do it as me. And yeah. And so I've been happy, I've been satisfied. I've had disappointments, but disappointments in terms of, I don't know, just realistic approaches to it, in terms of it it doesn't dictate my self-worth,
Yeah, I think
or
I think that's a really important message for people that are sort of feeling some of that desperation you mentioned. Is that it doesn't dictate who you are and what you are in the
or
world,
how good you are, or how
or how
good
good
you
you are.
are.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
there's got to be millions of, well, I'd say there's billions of photographers out there,
yeah.
millions of who work is absolutely outstanding, and I mean, you're not talking about, a couple of thousand people, you're talking about millions of people who do take really fantastic photos.
Really
And
good. Yeah.
it's definitely for me not that important now, and so I've just sort of, if something sells, whatever, it's just something that's,
Right.
and if it doesn't sell, whatever.
But yeah, and I think if you're in that position, you're very fortunate. The flip side, though, there are a lot of photographers from, or artists from, other areas that their work has never been seen, or they never had an opportunity,
Yeah.
and now they have a chance to actually make a living. And we in the Western world, it's we take these things for granted, but just selling one photo could make a huge difference for a month for a lot of these
Totally.
people.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know there's that. And I don't know, so there's good and bad. I do believe that the culture is shifting in a positive way, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of noise, and
Yeah.
there's still a lot of negative things that needs to get weeded out. But just like anything else, like in the previous world of workshops and different things, there was a lot of negativity as well, and a lot of competitive
Oh yeah. Yeah.
stuff. And it's not all roses in any.
No, I don't think the Instagram
Yeah.
culture was,
Oh,
from a few years ago was that healthy either.
agreed. So I think it's just important for us as individuals to figure out who we are, what we want, and then have realistic goals. Shoot for the moon, but just understand that you might not get there. And if
Mm.
you don't get there, it's okay. Have a plan B, a plan C, and then just figure out how to be happy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, life is short. I want to be happy. I want people around
Absolutely.
me to be happy.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I've
photography makes
made
photography
the
makes me
decision.
happy.
Oh,
So
sorry.
yeah. No, gosh, no. No, I was just gonna say, like, photography makes me happy. Sales are no sales. And most photographers start out because they love the art of photography. And we lose that when you put a dollar amount attached to it.
Mm.
And I know how fortunate I am that the dollar amount doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, as you say, for some people, it is, it can be life changing, or it could even just be, as you said, changing for a month or two, or even even a few days. And
Yeah,
for some
yeah.
people, it is something that they've, got to do to make a living. But I guess, for me, it was a decision a while back to sort of not do anything that made me stressed about that, and that's one of the reasons why I've just sort of pushed it towards the back of my priority list and concentrated. And your point about people, starting because they love the art, that was one thing that I've always tried to remember in any of the business activities that I've got into is, don't forget why you got into it,
Yeah. Yeah,
Make sure you
exactly.
remember that this is what it's really about, which is the creative process and the joy that creative process or the creation of the artwork itself, can bring you yourself, not necessarily other people.
Agreed. And just to sort of piggyback on that, when you miss, you're at the Lake District, and you go there and you get skunked, but you're in an amazing place that most people would never see.
Yeah,
Yet the disappointment that comes, photographers need to figure, they need to realize that you have these beautiful places in front of you that most people will never see.
exactly.
And be thankful,
Enjoy
have
it.
some gratitude.
Enjoy it while you're there.
Enjoy the skunking
That's
skunking
right.
times, because I'd rather be skunked there than working,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a great way of looking at it. I'd rather be skunked there than being at work. Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah.
How do you handle creative walls? I mean, every artist hits one. What have you done to get yourself out of the creative rut?
So I am currently trying to come out of my first creative rut. Like, I think NFTs and just the differences of opinions surrounding NFTs, it kind of sucked the wind out of my sails with regards to the love of the whole thing.
Mm.
And so at the beginning of this year, I was just like, okay, well, how do I get that back? How do I get that joy back? How do I not care anymore? And I've just been trying to shoot my way out of it. And I just patience and just getting out there and shooting. And I think probably in the last month, I've actually been taking my camera back to the dog parks and stuff like that, just kind of getting back to just enjoying having a camera and taking photos of the dogs and
Sure.
water and different things. So it was just more, okay, why do I love this? Where did my joy come from? And it just came from taking photos of random things. And so I feel like I'm finally coming out of it. I feel I want to potentially change cameras, and so that I could do a couple of other things. And so I'm starting to, starting to feel like I want to do things.
Fantastic.
And it's taken me, it's probably been about 8 months or longer.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So how did you feel, I guess, when that sort of struggle started? What was the process that sort of made you start thinking differently, I guess?
So when NFTs came around, there were two things. I was starting to think, do I want to do workshops? Do I want to teach? Do I want to, make a career out of this somewhat?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing NFTs, and there was all this just turmoil in the whole photography community, just in general.
Yep.
And also the marketing of my NFTs. I just was like, I don't want this to be a full-time job. I actually don't want to do it. And so I actually made the decision to just enjoy it and not take vacations to then do workshops and teach and all of that. But a lot of the people that I really looked up to really hated it, which I have no problem with, because there's a lot to dislike about the whole process.
Yep.
But what I didn't like was I felt like there was a lot of mob mentality in terms of, I'm going to unfollow you if you do this. I'm going to, and it went both ways. It was on both sides in terms of, the attacks. And then I don't know. It's not my scene. And I was really, really enjoying the photography community in general before NFTs. And one of the things in life for me, especially in the last 5 years or so, is that you can disagree with something. You can be very passionate about something. But most people have more things in common than things that they have that are not in common. And so for me, it was just, I don't know, it was just disappointing.
Yeah.
That was it. And then it just sucked the fun out of the whole thing, because I didn't want to share. I don't know, sucked the fun out of it. But that's life. And I don't know. I'm happy now, and I'm getting my mojo back.
Excellent. That's great to hear. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing photographers right now?
Facing photographers, I would say just acceptance of do you, and if other people are doing things that you don't enjoy or you don't like, or just do you. Like composites, blending, documentary photography. If somebody wants to put a huge moon in the middle of a scene, it might not be my thing, but hey,
you do,
like, yeah. And just be happy in your craft. If you want to make money on it, figure out a way to market it, and just do you.
Yeah.
I think that is honestly the biggest problem. Like, people in every I don't know, in every, what's the word? It could be photography, it could be, painting, it could be, there are always people that want to keep things the way that they are. But everything evolves, and there's no right or wrong way of doing things. There's just always people that are going to push the limits. I do not enjoy everything that's out there. I genuinely don't, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I might like grumble and be like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? I don't understand that. But I'm not gonna post about it. I'm not going to talk to other people about it online.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's something particularly egregious, why?
Exactly. I think that is probably the biggest problem for photographers in general. That would be my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm not. I've got to say, I'm not a fan of the cancel culture that can go on, where people just say, well, because you do this, or you follow that person or whatever, then I'm gonna blank you, but and it's not so much one person doing that; it's more that follow on, as you said, that sort of that grows from it.
Yep. It's an interesting time, and I don't know. That's a good question, though.
What do you like to do when you're not out shooting?
I used to play a lot of golf. I haven't been playing recently. The weather here has not been great, but golf is one. Generally, just go for hikes. I love traveling. And then because of the job that I have, I genuinely enjoy just doing nothing. Like sitting on the couch, watching bad TV, or listening to a book or a podcast or something, just doing nothing.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing about being a photographer and the best thing about being a photographer? And you can do them either way you want.
I think the best thing for me is going back to the question you had asked about, just basically that I see the world differently. I think I have a better appreciation for the world, and I think that that's the best thing about photography. The worst thing is I am competitive. I do want to get good at things, and as much as I would like to not care what people think, I do. And
everybody does.
Yeah, and I think that that's the time factor is also, it does take time, the balance part of it, but I think I've kind of honed in on that. But the big thing for me is just trying to not get to a point where, even though I care, it doesn't affect the way that I shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what tips do you have for someone just starting out and, would like to get into landscape photography in a bigger way?
Yeah. There are a couple of things that I think are important, in terms of, learn the technical, learn how people, learn all the rules that you're supposed to break when you get better. But have fun, keep having fun. And then every time you miss a shot, every time there's a moment that you think, oh my goodness, if only I had my camera, or you had your settings wrong, or something went wrong and you didn't get the shot, there will be another one. If you keep going out there will always be another moment. As long as you keep shooting, there will always be another moment, and try to just keep enjoying the process, and especially if it's landscape, enjoy nature. It's phenomenal. It's wonderful. It's calming. It's healing.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's probably my best advice. Enjoy it. There will always be another moment. Yeah.
That's
and then follow your curiosity.
Great advice there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any photographers out there that you think I should be talking to and getting on the podcast?
Well, Jared, because he's a magician, as I said.
Yep.
I don't know if you've had him on.
I haven't yet.
Yeah. TJ Thorne, absolutely love. Tony Sellen. Actually, this is mainly landscape.
Yep.
Okay. Alex Noriega. I love Sarah Marino, Jennifer Renwick. There is Krista McCuish, I think. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Krista, if I pronounced it wrong. Yeah, Krista McCuish. She's just phenomenal. And I can send you how to spell the name.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'm likely to get that one right.
Yeah, those are the ones that I just generally tend to gravitate towards their work nowadays. Just phenomenal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I've got one more question for you, and for a lot of my listeners, it's the most important one I can ask.
Oh boy.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
I do. I'm from Barbados. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
People, it's not a thing, but
I've had a lot of arguments about it. I've almost lost friends, but yeah, it's a hill I'm going to die on.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to me, Tara. It's been absolutely wonderful getting to know you a lot better, and hearing about how you do what you do. So where can people find your work?
So you can go to my website at taraworkmanphoto.com, or Instagram at mybajaneye.com. Sorry, mybajaneye, or Twitter at Bajan in PDX.
Okay, cool. Thanks again, Tara.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening, because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at gruntswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.